Hi, my name is Susie, and I am an alcoholic. And I'm grateful to be sober, and I'm grateful to be here. Glenn, thank you for asking me to speak. I think, anyway, if it all goes sideways, we'll blame it on Glenn, okay? Anyway, it's always an honor to be able to be of service. I was taught early on that when anything is asked of me from AA, the answer is yes. Of course, there are rare exceptions to that, but the answer is yes. And without a doubt, I can say that service has saved me from the beginning. I was taught that very early on, too. So let's see a little bit of what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. I am the baby, the only girl. I have three older brothers, and all I ever wanted was to be one of the boys. And there's 7 years difference between the youngest boy and myself. So I ran around with a lot of older men all through my life, pretty much. From a very young age, I knew something just felt different. That hole we talk about inside, wanting to be a part of, and not ever really feeling like I fit in. I don't think it's any different than anybody probably has ever felt. And then when you find alcohol, it's like, I found the answer. I found the solution. And it's a solution, I guess, until it's not a solution. I started drinking at a very young age. All of my family are alcoholics and addicts, every one of us. Not my dad. He was the only normal one. And I think he died very young. He died at 64, and I think he was just tired, is the truth. Uh, I was probably, honestly, I don't know. I was given whiskey in the bottle when I was an infant. I learned that later on. And I think it was kind of a normal thing back then, though. But I was probably, honestly, 6, 7 years old. And I remember my mama used to make spaghetti every week. And for whatever reason, they allowed me to have wine in those little jelly jars. They used to have like the little cartoon characters on them, and I used to get wine in the jelly jar once a week when my mom made spaghetti. And I remember it tasted terrible, but I sure liked the way it made me feel. And that was from a very young age. I think like first grade or something, honestly. And I think that my mom kind of thought it was funny or cute. I don't know. Anyway, so that was probably the very beginning. I don't know that I had any real idea what was really going on, but I do know that I did like the way it felt. And I recall the first time I intentionally set out like to get drunk. I was in the Girl Scouts, and my Girl Scout troop was actually hostessing a wedding, and they had some punch with liquor in it. And my friend and I, we decided we were going to drink a lot of that punch. Well, they found me passed out under the table. I drank myself into a blackout, and I was escorted home, and I was very sick. And I recall waking up the next morning, and I could hear my parents in the other room laughing at me. And I cried and I cried, and I didn't want to get out of bed, and I knew I was going to be just like my mom. I knew from the first time I picked up a drink and set out to intentionally get drunk, I knew that I was an alcoholic. And I don't think that's what you normally hear, but I had no doubt in my mind I was going to be just like my mother, and I didn't want to be. Anyway, so I did a lot of experimenting, and ended up addicted to a lot of other dry goods. And I had a good long run, about 15 years. And I think that, let's see, I'm trying to think the beginning of the end. We talk about, it taking whatever it takes. I think it's funny. My disease tells me I'm not that bad, but I had a pretty low bottom. I had totaled my car. I ended up having a surgery I probably wouldn't have needed if I wouldn't have been drunk. I burnt my house down. My boyfriend went through the windshield of a car. I buried all but one of my friends. Those are just some of the highlights. And I still didn't stop drinking at that point. It wasn't enough for me. So I proceeded to carry on. And, everybody else knows that you have a problem. I knew I had a problem, but I could not stop either. I couldn't live right and I couldn't die right either, you know? And I remember always thinking, praying like I just wouldn't wake up. I just didn't even want to wake up. Anyway, fast forward through the years, you know, I ran with the boys a lot. I kind of grew up in the garage. I had one brother that raced cars and one brother that raced boats. And I grew up with the boys in the garage and ran around with a lot of older men, which was kind of another fix for me, was men. And I was, I guess, my first experience. I was 25, and there was this good-looking man, and we had a mutual friend, and I had mentioned I thought he was good-looking, and so he invited me to go out on a date, and I was pleased as punch, and he took me to an AA meeting. It was not what I had in mind, but I ended up in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in Brentwood, California, and there were probably about 300 people. And I was terrified. The only thing that I really recall was a lot of laughter. And I couldn't tell you a thing that was said. I don't recall anything but the laughter. And I was very much so into my disease at that time. And at the end of the meeting, Mickey was the guy I went out with, and he brought this young lady over to me and told me, Susie, meet your new sponsor. This is Donna. And I always referred to it as Nazi AA. They told you what to do a lot, and there was none of this coddling people or worrying about hurting your feelings. It was nothing like that. They tell you to shut up and sit down and take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth and shut up and get in the car. They told me to shut up a lot. I was pretty sure I had all the answers. If I remember being told to shut up a lot. Anyway, for whatever reason, the only thing I can think of is but for the grace of God. I know today that's what it is. I went home and I began to stop, I guess, you know, and I withdrew. I withdrew for, it was probably 2, 3 weeks at home. And I called Donna all hours of the night, and she was there for me. I don't know how, but I got through it, and I stuck around Alcoholics Anonymous for 16 years. And then I got thirsty. I had quit calling my sponsor. I had quit going to meetings and all those things you hear all the time. It's so true. And my disease was in there doing push-ups, I think, because it started telling me, you're not that bad. You could probably control it. And I remember it like it was yesterday. We were camping and it was a beautiful day. And I was staring out at this lake and it was beautiful and it was hot. And I thought, man, a cold beer sounds really good. And so I picked up a cold beer, and I'll tell you what, I have never in my life, never have I had one of anything. And, but my disease told me I could after all these years, Susie, you could probably control it. Well, I couldn't. And I came to in the hospital 4 years later. Now, I kind of raced through the beginning part of that, but I think it's important to know that my disease has not taken a break. I did not get well. That was a lie that I could control it. And I believe that, you know, I needed to do that. I needed to have that relapse after 16 years. I just celebrated 17 years last month. But for the grace of God, I scared the heebie-jeebies out of me. I was going to 3, 4 meetings a week. I was in LA and California. They have 1,500 meetings a week. It's not a problem to go to that many meetings a day. And so for 6 months, that's what I did. I just buried myself in Alcoholics Anonymous. It scared the heck out of me. And I'll tell you, when I came to in the hospital, my son was right there. And he said, Mama, it's okay. I get it. My son is one of us. My daughter is one of us. And hardest amends I've ever had to make. They had never seen me drunk. I was sober 3 years before I started having babies. And anyway, it's, hardest amends I've ever had to make. Sorry. I'm so emotional because I'm such a grateful person. I really am. I am so grateful to be sober today. I did so many crazy things, in my disease. I should have been 6 feet under multiple times. And it was just a little bit over a year ago, I was diagnosed with an incurable cancer, a blood cancer, and I couldn't even walk. My husband was having to take care of me. He was dressing me, he was bathing me. I thought, if this is what it is, I don't want to do this. And somehow I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. And I believe that it's all because of my higher power and all because of Alcoholics Anonymous. Anything good that I know is because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And, nobody plans on things like that ever. But the truth is, life shows up whether we're drinking or not. Life shows up, and our book talks about learning to live life on life's terms. And it talks about the program being a design for living. And there's a reason that we have 12 steps. And I know my program has grown in my spiritual program has grown probably more in this last year than all the years put together. Uh, I I could not do this without the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's a lot of things I couldn't do, but I definitely couldn't do this without Alcoholics Anonymous. Today, I'm surrounded by just amazing people in my life. I have a sponsor. I sponsor women. I take meetings into the jail. I take meetings into a rehab facility. And through the cancer, there was a while there that I was quarantined like 8 months or something. Just because of my immune system, I actually had a stem cell transplant at Vanderbilt last November. And I still have a pretty low immune system, but it's better than it was. Progress, not perfection, right? I still, was able to work with the women. We worked over the phone, and then there was a while they'd come and we'd, visit, but sit, far enough apart, wear masks, whatever, and talk about service. Without that, I wouldn't have a whole lot of anything without being able to be of service. I was retired, I guess you'd say, or disabled. I wasn't planning on, quitting work this young. And well, I'm retirement age, but I still thought that I would be working a lot longer than I was. And, it's just all the unknowns, I guess, and we talk about, I know I do, to trust the process, and that's all of it in its entirety, not just the bits and pieces. And to be able to do that, not knowing if you'll ever walk again or what it's going to be like, was probably some of the biggest challenges in my sobriety has come through this cancer, honestly. And I am so grateful. You really begin to understand things differently. I think my perspective has changed in a lot of ways. And what's important in time is just so precious, And today I choose, like, my time is mostly spent with Alcoholics Anonymous. I like to craft, I walk. That's all I can do today is walk, for exercise. I was a very healthy person. I was the picture of health. I'll tell you, cancer is just like alcoholism. It does not discriminate. It really doesn't. Alcoholism changes your life and cancer can change your life. And it's like a double whammy. I used to say I was a double winner because I became active in another 12-step program due to my son actually was a homeless heroin addict and I had kicked him out of the house. And I will say today, last March, he celebrated 10 years of recovery. And also our daughter celebrated 4 years this last summer. So, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and at least they knew where to go, when the time came. I think that the greatest thing we have to offer is to lead by example. But for me, just being of service has given my life more meaning and more purpose than I could even put into words. We do have the steps for a reason, and they're in the order they're in, I think, for a reason. And I have been so blessed, believe it or not, through this cancer. I really have. Do I wish I didn't have it? Sure, but for what it's given me in my life, it's beyond what we could ask or imagine. We hear that in the program, like if we were to do, someone had asked me in the very beginning when I came in originally in 1985 to write a gratitude list. And if I could have anything I wanted, in a year, what would it be? And I remember what I had received from the program far surpassed. Like I really sold myself short, that when I do the next right thing, and when I keep working on my spiritual life, enlarging my spiritual life, and Susie gets out of the way, that it's amazing how life just can unfold with such grace, and I can be at such peace no matter what comes my way. And it's all because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's because when I'm working on my spiritual life, I can get out of the way, because I am most definitely the problem. I am the problem. It's not the alcohol. We hear that. I don't know, how well I understood that early on. But Susie is the problem. It's not the alcohol. In the beginning, the alcohol was the solution. And it was like a party. And then it's the party, right, with consequences. And then it's just consequences. And today, I can tell you that when I was diagnosed, I have not once to this day even thought of having a drink. I have been 100% present for all of this. And it's one of the hardest things I have had to walk through in my sobriety. My children, my son, he's done some time too, a very difficult time. And even during my stem cell transplant in last November, I lost my last brother. I have lost all of my family to this disease, or indirectly, I should say. My brother, David, he was the oldest brother, and he was the last one living besides myself. And he was like, his alcoholism, I believe he was in reverse tolerance, and he was drunk. He was, I guess, functioning alcoholic. He still worked, and he wouldn't drink until he was done working. But he ended up dying suddenly and unexpectedly at last November, and I'm the last one in the family. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but it certainly, it's just how this disease works, and why I was given so many chances, I don't know. Why I got it, I don't know. But I do know to follow direction, and I do know to keep putting one foot in front of the other and to do the next right thing. And I do know that when I am being of service, that's when I'm at my best. I know that the cancer has limited me physically. I can't do a lot of things I used to do. So I have multiple myeloma, and what it is a blood cancer. And like if I fell down, my bones would break. Probably it kind of eats your bones from the inside out. It's in the marrow and the blood. And I just had a back surgery 2 weeks ago, and actually a week ago, 5 days after my back surgery, I had signed up for a walk for multiple myeloma, and I walked 5 miles 5 days after back surgery. That's not me. Susie can't do these things on her own. That's not me. But when I stay out of the way, and when I make sure that my spiritual life is right, things just work out. And like, that's beyond what I could have imagined. And I signed up for the walk before I knew I was having back surgery 5 days before. I probably would have not signed up. Like, who does that? How could that be? But you know what? Guess what? It was, and it's not me. This program is, I don't know. I'm grateful to be an alcoholic, because I would not have Alcoholics Anonymous if I wasn't an alcoholic. And just what it's given me and how I've been able to grow, and the people that are in my life today, it's better than anything I've ever had. Excuse me. I was thinking, I moved about a little over 6 years ago here, and we were going through all of our belongings, and my husband gave me this box, and he's like, Susie, you got to go through these pictures. These are all yours, because we were really thinning out, scaling down. And I looked in this box. I started going through these pictures. I ended up throwing the whole box away. It was 15 years of my disease is what it was. I didn't know who these people were in these pictures. I mean, it sounds terrible, but that's how I drank. and everybody was my best friend. I'm pretty sure I solved all the world's problems through it too. But all these people, like, I didn't know who they were, and I do remember a few very precarious situations I got myself into. Like, there's no way I should even be here today. Like, I'm not letting alcoholism take me out. I'm not letting cancer take me out. I am way too stubborn and ornery for all these things. But there's just no limit when I am staying out of the way and working with my higher power, when I want my will to be my God's will, right? My higher power's will, not my will. And that is something I know that daily in the morning, I try to have quiet time in the morning. I do my readings and have a little prayer time and meditation. Just a little, in all honesty, to be honest, right now, I've not been doing good with my meditation. But I'll tell you, I just kind of got out of practice recently, but I was even adjusting my meditation to the stages I was going through with my cancer. This is like, God is bigger than any of this. He's, bigger than my alcoholism, bigger than my cancer, bigger than any of it. And that if I can keep that part right, stay in fit spiritual condition on a daily basis, I'm going to be all right. And it's not just the alcoholism, it's the cancer too. Um, yeah, and so that's what I try to do. I had an experience. I'm trying to think. I guess I was in high school, and there was a young lady that she saw something in me, and she had taken me to an Alateen meeting. And so I was a person, coming into, my adult life and everything. Like, I knew about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't go willingly. I mean, I was tricked into it by that date. But what about all the people that don't even know about Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Like, people that don't get this program. I believe that we are the blessed ones. I believe that this is a gift, and that I have got to give it away to keep it. And I don't want to lose anything that I have been so freely given. I have had phenomenal people in my life, in Alcoholics Anonymous. And the steps have definitely changed my life. Uh, yeah, I'm just so grateful today for what I have. I really am. And it's I don't even know how to explain it. It's been through some of the worst and hardest things that have happened in my life that have brought me the most gratitude. And it's because of the program, though, and the steps. And boy, I remember in the beginning, you hear people, they introduce themselves and they say, I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. I used to like gag when I heard people say, oh, like, you've got to be kidding me. How could you be grateful for this? And today I'm one of those. I am a grateful recovering alcoholic. Everything good in my life is because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it doesn't matter what comes my way, there is a solution. The steps work not just for alcoholism, but for anything that shows up in my life. So if I stay active, right, and fit spiritual condition, and I stay actively working or living, I guess, the principles in all of my affairs and working the steps in all areas of my life, because it doesn't matter what it is. There's a step for it. It's usually for me, right? My character defects, the sixth step, but I have a solution to all of those things that show up in my life. I don't have to stay in the pain. I don't have to stay in self pity. I don't have to, be lashing out at people. It doesn't mean that I don't do those things. I certainly do. But I have a solution, and it's there. Uh, I feel like I'm all over the place today. I'm really sorry. I'm actually feeling really sick. I just started back on chemo a few days ago, and I was off of it for like a month because of my surgery. And so I'm kind of all over the place. I apologize for that. But I'm just very grateful to be here. I'm very grateful to be sober. I don't think that my what it was like was any different than anybody else's. What happened, I got tricked into Alcoholics Anonymous is the truth, but by the grace of God, I stuck around. I had a relapse I needed to have. And, I've just worked on enlarging my spiritual life, and I work the steps and I work with others. And because of those things, my life is blessed. This is the good life. I have a beautiful, good life today. And for that, I'm really grateful. Glenn told me I could speak for the remainder of the meeting, and I told him I don't think I'll probably talk that long. So I think you're going to have time for a little discussion time because I think that's all I really have today. But I am grateful to be of service, and I'm grateful to be a recovering alcoholic. And it's an honor to have been able to be of service. So thank you for asking me, Glenn. And I think that's all I have. So you're going to have some free time.
All
Thank you.
right. Well, thank you, Susie. Thanks. You did a great job.